Welcome to Truth Watch, where we go beyond the headlines to uncover the stories, the choices, and the lessons behind every event. Let's dive in.
Sometimes all it takes is one single case, one crime, to completely define an institution. We're talking about a story so wild, it literally creates a legend that sticks around for decades. And that's exactly what we're going to get into today. The story of the crime that helped build the whole myth of J. Edgar Hoover's FBI. All right, so let's set the scene. It's 1940. The world is teetering on the brink of total war, and you can just feel the tension in America. Now, what you're looking at here, this is the actual cover of the FBI's own bulletin from that October. And trust me, it's way more than just a magazine. It's basically a mission statement for a country that's holding its breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And check this out. These are the stakes, straight from the man himself, J. Edgar Hoover. He's basically saying, hey, America, the game has totally changed. The bad guys aren't just your typical gangsters anymore. Nope. The real threat now, it's the spy, the saboteur, the subverter hiding right under our noses. So the FBI is stepping up, positioning itself as the nation's ultimate shield against these new foreign threats. So yeah, welcome to the world of Hoover's FBI. This was an agency that was growing its power like crazy and really cementing its image as the one force that could protect America from, well, anything. Okay, so if you want to really get a grip on their power, you got to look at what they were allowed to do. And their mandate was huge. I mean, everything from stolen cars to bank robberies fell under their jurisdiction. But I want you to zero in on this one right here. Kidnapping that crosses state lines. That particular law, it gave the FBI an incredible amount of power, and it is the key to the whole story we're telling today. But to see how that all played out, we actually need to jump back in time a little bit. So let's hop in the time machine and go back 3 years to 1937. See, before all the talk was about foreign spies, the FBI was fighting a whole different war on the home front. And this is where we meet our main player, a guy named John Henry Seidland, and his twisted plan for what he was convinced was the perfect crime. The target? A 72-year-old executive named Charles S. Ross. A wealthy guy, ran a greeting card company. He's just driving down a road near Chicago when, bam, he gets pulled over. Next thing you know, he's at gunpoint being shoved into another car. The men behind this are that guy we just mentioned, John Henry Seidland, a really ruthless bank robber, and his accomplice, a younger guy named James Atwood Gray. And these guys were, wow, they were cold and they were meticulous. The first ransom letter shows up, and the instructions are just bizarrely specific. Get this, they demanded the money be delivered by some random employee from the Harley-Davidson company on a motorcycle. I mean, who thinks of that? The whole idea, of course, was to make it impossible for the cops to get close. On this timeline, it just shows you how calculated this whole thing was. Right away, Ross is whisked across state lines into Minnesota. They've got a secret hideout, a dugout already built and waiting for him. The ransom note goes out. They even send a picture of Ross holding a newspaper to prove he's alive. It's all going off like clockwork. You can just see Seidland in the background, pulling every single string, controlling every move. The price tag? $50,000. Now, you gotta remember, this is 1937. We're talking about the equivalent of over $1 million today. Just a massive amount of money. And the Ross family, they were terrified. Of course they were. They agreed to pay every last cent. So the family does exactly what they're told. They follow every single instruction. They hire the motorcycle guy, they get the money together. They're playing by the rules, just praying they'll get Charles back safe. But what happens next is what turns this from a terrible crime into a national obsession. October 8th, the ransom gets paid. It's dropped on some dark highway, just like they said. Seidland snatches it and just vanishes into the night. And the family, they wait and wait. But what they don't know is that Charles Ross was already a dead man. Yeah, because just 2 days later, at a second hideout, Seidland does the unthinkable. He commits the ultimate betrayal and murders his own partner, James Gray. And then he turns the gun on his hostage, the helpless 72-year-old Charles Ross. He buries them both in a shallow pit, thinking, that's it, I've gotten rid of every single witness, my perfect crime is complete. But here's the thing about a perfect crime. It's almost never perfect. Seidlin didn't leave a trail of witnesses, sure, but he left a trail of paper. And that is exactly where the FBI comes in, ready and waiting to show the entire country just how modern and scientific they really were. And this is where the FBI gets really clever. I mean, this is brilliant. They basically turn the ransom money itself into a giant tracking device. The process was so methodical. First, they record the serial number of every single bill in that 50 grand ransom. Everyone. Then they send those lists out to banks, hotels, businesses, you name it, all across the country. So now, every time Seidlin spends even one of those bills, he's basically sending up a flare, leaving a breadcrumb for the G-men to follow. And sure enough, the trail of breadcrumbs leads all the way to California to the Santa Anita racetrack, where Seidlin is living it up, gambling away his dirty money. And this case had gotten so big, so important, that J. Edgar Hoover himself flies out to LA to personally supervise the takedown. I mean, the entire reputation of the FBI was riding on this. And the trap, it works like a charm. FBI agents are undercover, posing as cashiers at the betting windows. Seidlin strolls up, places a bet with one of the marked bills, and boom, the signal is given. He's arrested right there on the spot. So quietly, so smoothly, no one even notices. No big shootout, no dramatic chase, just the cold, clean, efficient end to what was one of the biggest manhunts the FBI had ever run. So, with Seidlin in handcuffs, the whole horrifying story just comes spilling out. He confesses to everything. He even leads the agents to the rest of the ransom money. And then he takes them to that lonely, shallow grave where he buried his victims. Now, Seidlin, he tried to spin this whole tale about how it was all a terrible accident, a struggle with his partner that went bad, and he had to shoot them both as a mercy killing to put them out of their misery. That was his story. But the FBI, the prosecutors, they saw it for what it was, a cold-blooded, greedy double murder committed for one simple reason, so he wouldn't have to split the 50 grand. And really, this says it all, doesn't it? This is what it all boiled down to. On one side, you got the why, a typewriter case just stuffed with cash. And on the other side, the result, a cold, empty, snow-covered hole in the ground. The motive and the horrific consequence, right there next to each other. So let's bring this all full circle. The takedown of John Henry Seidlin wasn't just about closing a case. It was a huge PR win for the FBI. It made them look modern, scientific, unstoppable. It was the perfect story for a country that, remember, by 1940 was getting really nervous about the world. The thinking was, hey, if these guys can track down a ghost like Seidlin, then they can definitely handle all those spies and saboteurs Hoover keeps warning us about. Which really leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on, right? How much of the way we see our biggest institutions is really built on their day-to-day work versus these larger-than-life, unforgettable stories that get told over and over? The whole tragic case of Charles Ross and John Seidlin is just a powerful reminder that sometimes how a story gets told is every bit as important as the story itself.
As we close today's story, remember, truth is rarely simple. Behind every headline is context. Behind every act is a chain of decisions. And behind every tragedy, there are lessons waiting to be understood. At Truthwatch, we don't chase fear. We seek clarity. We ask better questions, and we look deeper than the surface. Because awareness is not about panic, it's about understanding. And understanding is how we move forward. If you value thoughtful analysis and deeper perspective, subscribe and join us as we continue to examine the stories that shape our world. This is Truthwatch.